One. Welcome to the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum for the mayoral race. My name is Jim Like, and I will be your moderator for this evening. Before we get started, I'm going to, for those of you who were at the town board forum, you've already heard this, so please bear with me as I repeat. But for those of you who are new, I'm going to let you know what the format is going to be this evening. Each candidate is going to begin with a 2-minute opening statement, and they are going to go in the order that you see from left to right because of numbers that we drew earlier in the evening. After the opening statement, each candidate will be asked questions that have been prepared by members of the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce. Once a candidate has been asked the question, they will have a total of 2 minutes to give their answer. When there's 30 seconds left for your answer, a card will be held up. Jolynn has the card back there to let you know you have 30 seconds. And she will hold up another card when you are at 10 seconds so that you can wrap up your answer. And if you don't finish up by that time, you'll hear a bicycle bell. Can we have a demonstration of the bicycle bell? Because we are nothing if not high-tech here.
You fit right in with the council chambers then.
Beyond the questions that the chamber has prepared, we may, if time allows, have an opportunity to take questions from the audience. So audience members, if you do have a question that you would like to see asked of each of the mayoral candidates, please raise your hand. Mark Warren has index cards. Mark will give you a card and something to write with. Please write down your question and hand it to him if we have time, and if your question is in fact appropriate, we will enter it into the list to ask for the mayoral candidates. If time does not allow, please don't be offended if we can't get to your question. We will begin now with our opening statements, and because of the draw we had earlier, Mayor Chesmore, Tom, you get to go first.
Lucky me. Well, good evening to everyone. Those of you who don't know me, I don't think there's probably too many. My name is Tom Chesmore, and I'm the current mayor. I live at 345 Elm Street with my wife. We raised 2 children in Milton. Since then, they've gifted us with 2 grandsons. One of those still lives in Milton. My parents still live here. Both of them are retired. My father was a former police chief. My mother was a nurse. So you kind of got community service as a family dish. I spent 4 years as an EMT in Milton and another 17 years on the Milton Fire Department, retired in 2005 as a captain. I've been employed by Simmons Company in Janesville. They make mattresses, Beauty Rest, in case anybody wonders. I've worked there for 32 years. I spent 3 years as an alderperson before becoming the mayor. As your mayor the last 4 years, we've seen some big changes in the city. We worked tirelessly to prepare the city for the bypass. I'm sure everybody reads about that all the time. And we also prepared the infrastructure of the city, and we're finishing up, well, not finishing up, we're getting started on the next project, which is the police department, the library, and city hall. And those changes will take us in for 20 or 30 years, decades before we have to worry about them again. I'm running again since I feel there's still something needs to be done. And I want to see some completion of the projects that we've begun here. I've been an advocate for growth in the city and also for the people. I've never not responded to an email or a phone call. And I've gone to people's homes when they called me with a problem and wanted to see me face to face. I've made a lot of hard decisions, and some have been painful, but I've always done it for the betterment of the city and the people.
Thank you, Tom. Our second opening statement will be from current councilperson and mayoral challenger Nancy Lauder. Nancy, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have been an alderman now for 3 years. I ran for alder. The deciding factor was when they raised trash pickup 20% in 1 year, and I thought, we must do something about this, and ran and was elected. I've lived in Milton about 35 years. The economy at that time was dominated by General Motors and Milton College and farming, and times have evolved. Now, our current challenges are the bypass and the new Y project. We have our new city hall in the works, and the City of Milton is expanding and keeping up to date with our public infrastructure and facilities. It's been a lot of, it's a difficult decision to spend that much money, but there are times when you look at it and it must be made. The city staff has done a wonderful job of maintaining the city facilities. They do a very good job with the budget. When they are asked to sacrifice, they have sacrificed. I don't really see any more major cuts in the near future because they have been sacrificing. Some of the goals that I would like to see is I would like to see more transparency in city government. And I would like open records. I would like the minutes from the groups that we subsidize, such as Milton House and MACC, to be published on our website. And I would like to continue working with the city to make sure that we work within budget. And I will now take my 30-second warning. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Our final opening statement will be from current councilperson and mayoral challenger, Brett Frazier. Brett, go ahead.
Thank you, Jim. Well, I'm Brett Frazier. I live just over on Rogers Street, 423 Rogers Street. I was born out in the township, grew up, graduated Milton High School in 1999, and then ventured a little farther north to start a career in the Madison area. I still work in Madison. I work in economic development there. I'm involved in the Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce Executives. I'm involved in a lot of advocacy on the state level, a lot of it targeted towards economic development. And while it's not the only challenge we have coming up here in Milton over the coming years, it is probably the reason that I decided to run for mayor at this point. We have done a lot to prepare for the bypass. That's going to fundamentally change the way our city functions, the way our commerce grows or shrinks, honestly. Now we have to decide, how do we develop after the bypass? We've laid the groundwork, we've prepped what we need to prep, but now we need to make the difficult choices of what will our city look like for the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Will we seek to fill our industrial parks with valuable buildings that grow the TIF, or will we seek to fill it with valuable buildings that grow the TIF that also include family-sustaining jobs? Folks who can assimilate into our community, who can expand our base here in Milton. I think that's an important distinction to make. When I sat with another folk getting an interview, he asked if that was realistic, and I think this sums up my candidacy. I'm not sure if we'll be able to achieve everything we set out to achieve, but I do know for sure if we don't try, we can guarantee what we'll get in the end. I'm committed to working my tail off for the citizens of Milton, the businesses of Milton, and I'm looking forward to earning your vote on April 2nd.
All right. Thank you, Brett. We're now going to proceed with the questions, and how we're going to do this is with each successive question, a different candidate will be going first, kind of like passing the deal in poker, if you will. So we're going to start by virtue of the draw with Mayor Chesmore. All of the questions will be the same for each of you. They may be worded slightly differently because we have an incumbent versus challengers. So we'll start with you, Tom. Considering that the mayor only votes to break ties, and you have served both as mayor and on city council, what do you feel is the advantage, or why do you like being mayor, the chief elected official, versus serving as one of the council persons?
Actually, there's times I'd like to go back and be a council person.
Maybe not the right form to say that.
Actually, an older person has probably more say in the outcome of the decisions of the city than the mayor does. As mayor, you set the agenda. There's only been one thing that I've refused to allow on an agenda in my 4 years. Versus back when I was on the council, there were several things that were not allowed to ever come out of committee or make it onto an agenda. I like being mayor for just because of the reason where I get people to talk to me and explain their problems, and we do the best we can to fix them. Nate Bruce told me when I won the election against him that it was a very hard, time-consuming job, and he wasn't lying. It's a lot of time. There are days when I work 10 hours a day and then I come home and I spend, well, the other night we were all here till 11 o'clock. So that makes for a real long day. But in the end, the benefits that you see. The thing is nice about being on the council and being mayor is you can actually see the fruits of your labor. You may work hard on getting something done, but you're able to see it at the end in a finished product. So I don't know any other way to answer it. I like being the mayor. Like I said, there are times I'd like to be back sitting in the council seat where there's a little bit less responsibility, but the council basically decides, you know, the future of the city. As an older person, you actually have more power than the mayor.
Thank you, Tom. Nancy, as a current council person, what is it about the mayor's job that appeals to you, and why do you want to run for mayor?
Well, as Tom says, the aldermen get a lot of say, and it has been a very interesting honor to be an alderman and speak. But the mayor gets to select who's going to be on the committees that handle the issues before they get to Common Council, and by such as the Personnel and Finance Committee is quite conservative in their liquor licenses, and that has been a concern that the mayor has directed, which I agree with completely. But you get a different power to arrange how things happen. Actually, though, it is nice to be an alderman and understand what's going by. I'm very glad that I have run. Why do I want to be mayor? I want to go to the next step. I've worked at the food pantry a long time, and what I see is there's quite a few economic diversity in Milton, and I want to be sure that everyone has the opportunity to be represented, even those that have to go to the library for internet access. But this is what makes the fabric of the community, is everyone.
Thank you. Brett, same question to you, current council person. What appeals to you about moving up to mayor?
Well, 2 years ago, I got a little bit of encouragement to run for mayor that time, and I always like to take advice from people who know better than me, and I asked former Mayor Bruce if he thought it was that I'd had enough experience on council to run for mayor, and he said give it a couple more years. So I did that. And those couple of years have definitely taught me more lessons. I am a much more prepared candidate this year than I would have been 2 years ago. And I think that'll make me a much more capable mayor than I would have been 2 years ago. Nancy's right. The mayor sets the committee appointments. And that's important in Milton. We place a lot of responsibility on our committees: Personnel and Finance, Public Works, Public Safety, Parks and Rec. Those committees and others make meaningful decisions or recommendations to the council that very often we vote on as part of our consent agenda. They don't get any further discussion because we have a level of trust built up there. The other power, though, that we have is, as a mayor, is to set that agenda. And that means you're setting the course for the city. I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing to keep certain things off the agenda. And for me, one of the pledges that I've decided to make after having gone and knocked a lot of doors is that as mayor, I'll never allow a spending decision to reach the floor of the council unless we first identified and communicated how we intend to pay for it. And not just within the confines of this room, but to the folks out in the community. Sometimes we feel like in the echo chamber of the council that we've vetted everything through pretty good, but that doesn't mean necessarily that the word has got out on the street. And so I'm hoping we can change that as mayor. That's a role, though, that's appropriate only for the mayor, really, to take. One councilman is 1/6 of the vote. The mayor is really the person who, at the end of the day, that the buck stops with.
Thank you. Our next question, we will start with Nancy. Nancy, the Highway 26 bypass obviously is nearing completion, and keeping in mind some of the issues that we've heard about and the perception about Jefferson now being forgotten by motorists, what are your suggestions to avoid some of those same issues of traffic flow going around the community?
I took a specific trip to Jefferson a few months ago just to find where they left it. It is very scary without good signage. I cannot stress how much I want the signage to be a cooperative venture between the Township of Milton and the City of Milton, just so that we can coordinate the fact that we still exist. We do need, and we're starting in on specifics on signage. We happen to have the use of one electronic sign. I'm waiting to understand how that will be programmed. The trouble is that you're asking things that haven't happened, and my crystal ball is just a little fuzzy, but signage is very much top of my list on how to keep people from forgetting we're here.
Thank you. Brett, same question to you. Highway 26 bypass, how do we avoid becoming a Jefferson?
We've prepared very well for the bypass, but at the end of the day, that only takes you so far. We're dealing with signage. We're working in partnership with the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce to develop signage, which will solve part of the problem, and that'll be great. But at the end of the day, we have to be more than just signs pointing to a city. We have to be something once you get here. And projects, community parks, the splash pad, the public library, that are either proven commodities in other communities or are regional draws in our own community already, are things we have to continue to invest in. And that's not just to draw people in off the bypass, but it's also to make Milton a place that our residents want to stay. You know, the flip side of that coin is, you know, we can draw in all the folks we want from outside the community, but how long are they here? You know, a day, maybe they stay for a couple days at the campground. We need to focus on that, of course, and we need to make sure we've done what needs to be done to make sure that folks don't forget about us like, you know, like they did Jefferson a little bit. But we need to maybe look at it through the prism of what's going to make us stay here more? What's going to make us ask our friends to come by more? And when they're here, spend more time. It's not just a matter of tourism, and tourism doesn't just have to be external. Most of us probably take at least a couple days to head out of town and go somewhere to do something fun in the year. How many of those days could we turn into days spent here in town? And I think investing in our infrastructure and in our amenities is a great way to do that. And so that's why I'm proud to support the expansion of the public library, the splash pad, and a number of other affordable improvements.
Thank you. Tom, 26 bypass, what can we do to make sure Milton's not forgotten?
Well, I've witnessed, before Jefferson, there was a town up north called Spooner, and they bypassed them with Highway 53. Now, I have people tell me that Spooner's in great shape. I remember what Spooner used to be. It's not that way now. And that's one of the driving forces that has, you know, made us really take a look, and me personally, to make sure that we're not like that. As both of these guys have stated, we're working with the sign code, getting our signage right. You know, not only the township and MACC, because some of our businesses aren't members of MACC, and this signage, with being able to sign outside the city and the changing of the code, it has to incorporate not just the MACC businesses, but also all the businesses in the city, and working with the township. I think the signage is going to be the most important thing. And as everyone stated, we have the Y, we have the splash park. I'd just like to remind everyone, and I'm really, this is kind of difficult for me because I don't like tooting my own horn that much. This all took place since I've been mayor. So the complaints that were made about the, you know, the mayor setting the agenda and everything else, I think I've set a damn good agenda. I think I've looked out for the city. In every decision I make, I've looked out for the city, I've looked out for the businesses, and I've looked out for the people. And it's never, sometimes it's not been easy, but I have done that. And sometimes it bothers me when I get people taking shots that I don't feel are justified towards the way that the city has handled itself in the past 4 years.
Thank you, Tom. Next question, we will start with Brett. Brett, the city is considering a proposal to move City Hall to the new police department building on Janesville Street. Do you think this is a good idea financially and in terms of space utilization, and also taking into account the potential expansion of the library in this building?
Well, this is timely, right? It couldn't come at a better time, right? You know, days before an election, we get to deal with the building project. But you know, the Milton Public Library upstairs last year had almost 80,000 visits. 120,000 items were checked out. There are only 7,000 card-holding patrons of the library. There's 5,500 people in the city of Milton, so it has a regional draw. Those folks, they're coming here for something. We've become a destination for something, and that something is the public library. I'm 32 years old, so I'm just barely old enough to remember the library when it was in that little house over on Vernal. And somebody 30-some years ago took a chance and said, hey, let's expand the public library. Let's grow it 10 times its current size. Now, maybe this is going to cost me the election, being in support of expanding the space for the library upstairs, but I will sleep just fine because what I've always done is, and the way I've always voted, is for what I think is right for the city of Milton, both in the short term, as far as affordability, and in the long term, as far as the long-term growth of our community. As far as affordability, the city of Milton and everybody on the council and the mayor should be commended for this. We are in strong financial position. It's true, we have a good size of debt out there, but it's manageable and affordable debt at this point. We also have a very healthy fund balance, and so we are in position to actually pay for the addition of City Hall almost entirely with cash. That won't add almost any debt to what was already a planned PD project. That's important. That's what we should be encouraging here in the city of Milton, is that kind of long-term planning and a structured way of approaching our infrastructure. And this mayor and this council has definitely done that, and I'm looking forward to taking us forward in that vein.
Thank you. Tom, same question. The proposal to move City Hall to the new police department building, good idea financially, good idea in terms of utilizing the space there and in this building for the library.
Well, everybody knows this mayor likes to build buildings. I shocked people a long time ago when I said that when I became mayor that we were going to build a building, and we did. The most important thing, and something that is good for economic development and is also good for the city and its people, is to make sure you have a sound infrastructure of a city. And that was something that we hadn't had, because everybody on the councils before had managed to kick that can just a little farther down the road with a little touch here and a little touch there. Well, those little touches at $20 or $30 or $50,000 a piece over a 10-year span tend to cost the taxpayers a lot more money than it would take to build a new building. So yeah, do I think it's a good idea? Absolutely. It was something that kind of came in sideways on us, but I don't think Brett's going to worry about the election. The turnout we had for the library, I mean, we don't get that kind of turnout unless we're going to cut down trees or put in sidewalks. So I mean, it's a very, not only is it popular, but it's needed. With the kind of numbers that the library chalks up, the library was the only city department that actually had a big increase in their budget last year. And because the council and myself saw the need to do that, just because of the amount of traffic that it brings into the city. The library would be part of making Milton a so-called destination. So yeah, it's a good idea. Fiscally, we're in great shape. I can tell you right now, we're gonna, I know I only got like 10 seconds left, but well, I'll get to that later. But fiscally, we're in great shape. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Nancy, the proposal to move City Hall to the police department, expansion of the library, your thoughts on the plan?
All the pieces fell into place very, very quickly, and we asked our financial gurus if we could afford it, and they said yes. It also means our taxes are not going to go down in the next few years, so please don't throw that in the equation. But the pieces fell together that it was time to do this. the proposal from the library brought out more community spirit than I have seen for any other event.
Yeah, but you haven't put in sidewalks or cut down trees yet.
I came for the sidewalks thing. I was an argument. But for positive community spirit, I have never seen anything that draws the focus of Milton to any event that they want to help build, help sponsor, help pay for in some manner. The other thing about the library is that it crosses all the socio-economic boundaries. Everyone goes to the library. It just is the time. It morphed into being, and it didn't come very quickly. Yes, that was quite a surprise. But all the pieces are falling into place, and we can afford it. But don't expect your taxes to go down, please.
All right, thank you. Tom, how can the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce, which represents the business community, work most effectively in partnership with the City of Milton?
I think we took some of those steps this year when we put in the tourism and economic development in place. I think that that really helped us work more in sync to try to understand each other a little bit better. You know, I would encourage the businesses in the city that aren't a member of MACC to get on board. It's going to be very important that all of our businesses become members of the chamber because there's going to be a lot of benefits that take place with being a member that maybe weren't obvious or there before. I think right now probably we've always had a very good relationship with MACC in the past. I think it's we've taken a step forward that was needed because of the strain that the bypass is going to put on us. I think we needed to become closer. Instead of just sitting at the same table, I think we had to come close to holding hands through this whole thing in order to make sure that everyone's on the same page and that our directions are the same. And, you know, we work well with the business community. I'm very pro-business, always have been. Sometimes it hasn't been popular, but that's just, you know, the way it goes. So. But yeah, that's my feeling is why we should or why we're doing so well now, and not that we weren't before, but I think it's gotten a lot better, and it needed to, just because of the fact that what's going to happen to the city here in the next couple of years.
Right. Thank you, Tom. Nancy, your thoughts on how the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce can work most effectively in partnership with the city?
We're both going for the same thing, the betterment and growth of Milton. What I would like to see, since we have restructured, is to have more transparency and have the minutes for the MACC board on the website so that we can all understand what direction that they are looking to go, so that we can work better together and have that transparency. Aside from that, MACC has done such wonderful things. I'm sorry that the Easter egg hunt is not going to happen according to MACC, but that was beyond their control. But they are a big force in the 4th of July celebration, which is one of the big draws for Milton. They have done all of the community spirit things, which we do need to encourage. We do need to make Milton a popular place to come, and we need MACC to do that. So I thank you.
Thank you. Brett, Chamber and the city, how can they best partner?
Well, I work in the Chamber of Commerce industry, so I'm probably a little bit biased here, but I'll tell you what, Joe Lynn has been on the job for just a little while here, and there's been a noticeable shift, not to say anything about what's gone before, but there's a noticeable shift in the organization and the structured and strategic direction of the organization. So I would echo what the mayor said about getting on board with the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce. That is a driven organization that is going to play a meaningful role in the economic development of our city and our area. But why do we need economic development? We talk a lot, you hear that up here a lot, but what's the purpose of it? The fact is that when we bring in a corporate citizen, a responsible corporate citizen, that broadens our tax base. corporate citizens, corporations, businesses use less services. They draw less money out of city government, and they bring more tax revenue in. That's good for all of us. That's how we can affordably keep your taxes down as homeowners, but keep the streets pothole free, and keep the stop signs up, and keep the police on the street. That's how we afford that, and we have to balance it, right? We don't want economic growth to come at the expense of the hometown values of our community, and so there has to be a balancing act there, I think. And with a strong Milton Area Chamber of Commerce, and we have a strong city staff and strong elected officials, I think we'll find that balance. And it comes down to communication and relationship building. That's the most important thing in just about anything you'll do, is communicating what you're doing, why you're doing it, and when it's done. And then also building those relationships of trust, so that when it's time to ask for something, one way or the other, it's a give a little, get a little, and we all recognize that we're in it together. I think we're setting the seeds for a good, productive relationship going forward, and I'm excited to see where it heads.
All right. Thank you. Our next question, and we'll start this one with Nancy. Lots of talk about the development on the east side of town with the splash park. Do you believe that the east side TIF district in the Goodrich Square area will encourage development that's consistent with the Goodrich Square plan?
My crystal ball needs focusing. We're putting our best foot forward to make that happen. The businesses that are privately talking about moving to that area are tourism oriented. This is the best direction that we know how to take it without having our crystal ball in complete focus, is to do the splash pad and attract more small business to the area. Charming Bees probably will get more draw from the splash pad. The library will probably get more draw. But my crystal ball is still needing a little shining up. I believe we're taking the right direction. If you have any better ideas, bring them out.
Thank you. Brett, your thoughts. Do you believe the TIF district in the Goodrich Square area is going to encourage the development consistent with the plan?
Well, I think we're all up here running for mayor, and I think you don't need a crystal ball to guide a city. What you need is a vision. You need to know where you're going, why you want to get there, and then set up incremental steps to achieve it. Now, the first step was coming up with that Goodrich Square plan. That's a comprehensive plan. It had a big price tag, over $4 million. That's just simply not affordable in one fell swoop. But what we do need to do is we need to make sure that we wisely invest the TIF increment that we do have, so that we can achieve these things, sort of like putting together a puzzle. First you put your corners up, you put your side pieces on, and in TIF, when you put those puzzle pieces on, they have to generate revenue that will allow you to incentivize the rest of the development. The splash pad is a good first step. You have to start somewhere. But as a city, we need to take more deliberate action, I think, to encourage development and redevelopment of some of those buildings and storefronts in the east side area. We also have to start to market it a little bit more comprehensively and cohesively, working in partnership with the private businesses that already exist there, but then also potentially doing a downtown retail survey or retail analysis to identify what's missing. How could you spend a day there? What's missing to spend more time in our downtown? And let's not forget the west side downtown either. They're definitely different areas, but a lot of what will work on the east side will also work to draw business down to the Merchant Row area. And that's an important thing that sometimes we can forget because it's not top of mind with Goodrich Square. But I think we're headed in the right direction. I think we've, as a council, we've got a vision. Staff has a vision. And working in partnership with the chamber, I think we'll just start to pick our spots as we can afford it to make that incremental change and create something really great.
Right. Thank you. Tom, to you, the Goodrich Square plan, do you think that the TIF district on that side of town will encourage the type of development that's consistent with the plan?
Well, I don't use a crystal ball. I use a magic 8-ball thing. That seems to work better for me. It's hard to say. I think we're on the right path with the splash park. You know, for years, we put a lot of money into Merchants Row with the improvements down there, the facade grants and things like that. And everybody thought that the east side was being kind of neglected, myself included. Then all of a sudden, the Goodrich Square plan happened, and we had a lot of interest from the businesses. And we did several facade grants down there. Like Brett says, we have this vision, and that, I think that's what separates, you know, us from a lot of cities. You know, I've met with other mayors before, and they're always amazed at how the city of Milton has been able to do this and do that and do this and do that, especially the hard economic times that we've had. It starts with having people with a vision, and I think, you know, you can look at the park and you say, you know, what would look good right there. Of course, we're going to have to cut down that tree, but that's okay. But it all starts with a vision, and I think we're on the right path. I think the splash park, I think with the Y going in out there is gonna really energize this area. And again, it's gonna be, like, as Brett said, bringing people in and then keeping them here. A lot of businesses down here are gonna benefit from what's going on, and fortunately for us, we have businesses that are very involved in that area right now, in every facet that goes into the thing down there. So, yeah, I think we're on the right track.
Thank you. We do have a question from the audience that I'm going to insert, and this one we start with Brett. Brett, if you're elected mayor, do you foresee changing existing committee members, or will you keep things status quo?
Well, every time we have an election, there's a little bit of a shakeup on committees. There's normally at least one new face in there, and you know, the great thing about those committees is they're so different. You know, what the skill set needed on Public Works, which I'm the chair of, is so different than the folks that you would hope to get on maybe Historic Preservation or Parks and Recreation. And so I think it's the task of the mayor, and honestly the one that I'm a little bit nervous about if I come out successful in this, is making sure you fit people into those right spots. Because like I said earlier, we put a lot of trust and a lot of responsibility on those committees. So I don't imagine that there would be a huge shakeup. I'm not the kind of guy who changes things that aren't broken. I would much rather fix the things that could use a little bit of attention. So. But if elected, I'll definitely take a look there and make sure that we've got the right folks both on the city council level and also you know, ad hoc folks from the community, and make sure we've got everybody in the spot where they're going to be the most effective. And one of the things we deal with is not burn out. Some of our committees are working committees, and they work very hard on very important tasks. And we want to make sure that we keep those folks online and invested. That's what makes a hometown community like this work, right? Is citizens, you know, like us running for mayor or running for city council, but maybe that's not your thing. Maybe you don't feel like sitting here till 11:30 at night on a Tuesday, and you can come to a 6 o'clock meeting of historic preservation, or you can sit on the ad hoc sign committee. And I guess my goal would be to keep people involved in the way that they'll be most successful and the way they want to be involved.
Thank you. Tom, if re-elected to another term, any big changes you foresee in committee members?
It's hard. Committees are one of the hardest decisions that you make, because there's so many different facets. I use the general idea where if somebody calls me, Don Verwink called me after he was elected. Boy, I really like Park and Recs. Well, you know what? He's an expert at it. Why would not you put him there? I try to put people where I think they can best provide the skills that committee needs. Sometimes it's hard, because you get a group of people where you say, boy, all those people would look good on personnel and finance. So then you got to sit there and break it down. And I can tell you, it takes, you know, I have fought that demon for a week or so, just trying to make sure I get the people right, because I make a list and then all of a sudden I might change it. Or somebody will call me and say, I don't want to be there anymore. Could you put me over here? sometimes you don't make the right choices, and I've made a couple of bad choices, and since I've been mayor, I corrected those. That's something else, you know, if you make a mistake, as Jerry Shute says, you got skin in the game. Okay, now, you got skin in the game and you're responsible. If it doesn't work out and there's a mistake made, it's your job as a leader to fix that. And I have had to fix a couple things. It wasn't pleasant, I didn't enjoy it, I don't like doing that, but it's just something that has to be done, and that's part of, you know, the responsible leadership that everybody keeps hollering about. I've done that. Been there, done that. I was a captain on the fire department. I know all about leading people. So.
All right, thank you. Nancy, if elected mayor, foresee any major changes in the existing committee members?
What I would first do is to ask all of the people that succeed in the election what their top 4 choices are, so that you know where their heart lies. Most times people pick things that they are knowledgeable about, pick groups that they are knowledgeable about. There are a few of the boards that I'm not knowledgeable about, and I'm fortunate that Tom did not put me on some of them. But with that in mind, the people whose heart lies in that board would make better candidates. With that being said, I want to see who the choices are, and would they pick an extra one so that there is some wiggle room to make a selection that you would hope will move Milton forward to the best of everyone's collective knowledge.
All right, thank you. We do need to wrap up, so we're going to ask one last question of each of you, and it is Tom's turn to go first. So, Tom, we're just going to ask you to summarize your candidacy and tell us why you deserve a vote for another term.
Guess I might as well just move to my closing statement, huh? Okay, just in closing, I'd like to thank MACC and Jim for moderating tonight. Doesn't nearly catch up to the stories that I got from Mark earlier, but we all know Milton is a great place to live, or we wouldn't be here. We raised our children here, our grandchildren. For the last 4 years as mayor, I have tried to address all of the problems of the city. Unfortunately, there's not that much time. We've done some great things. The council and I, we have done some great things for the city, and future councils are going to thank us for what we've done. We've done our best to keep Milton affordable, to raise kids, and hopefully someday retire here. Although it's a bad time in the winter time to think about retiring here. My parents are both retired, so I understand what it's like for people to live on a fixed income. Trust me, I get an earful from them every decision I make. And who wouldn't want to be mayor now? A lot of the heavy lifting has been done. The hard decisions have been made. There might be some in the future, but the hard ones that got us to where we are right now have been done. I've led the city through one of the most hardest recessions in the history of the United States, and yet we're fiscally sound. There's comments made that we don't take on projects and we don't know how to pay for them. That's not true. The council has never seen a project come before it where it didn't have several different options on how they were going to pay for it. And I take exception to the fact that that was even mentioned. It's not true, and it's a downright lie. And I would hope for your vote on April 2nd. I was going to run that just to hear that bell.
Well, somebody had to have it.
Yeah, somebody had to get her.
So, all right, Nancy, 2 minutes. Please summarize your candidacy and why you believe that you deserve our vote.
Well, Milton is a wonderful place. I want to listen to what people want and respond to it so that Milton can go forward with a collective vision being shared. I definitely want to get the city council back on TV. Now, we have had issues with that, but that's very high on my list so that we can be available for people that don't come and sit in our council chambers, which is most everybody. But we would like to share what's going on. I truly would like to get people to phone up the alderman, to phone up the mayor, to share what their concerns are. We have a very, very quiet group of citizens when it comes to everyday matters, except for the library, and trees, and sidewalks, and trash. But we would still like to have the input of all of the citizens, and I encourage it greatly. So I encourage you to vote for me because I want to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Brett, summarize your candidacy and why you deserve our vote.
Well, I moved back to town a handful of years ago and found there were only 2 folks running for 3 open council spots. So I launched a write-in campaign. I don't remember how many votes I ended up getting, but
150.
it wasn't as many as the other folks. But I thought it was pretty impressive that a couple people remembered how to spell my name and thought I'd do a good enough job running for that. That was 4 years ago. I got elected again. I was the only incumbent reelected in 2011, and I think the affordability of life here in Milton has been forefront in my mind. And not just for folks like me, or you have a young family at home, and just trying to to keep everything afloat, but also the folks who have paid their dues and spent their time and retired here in town. It breaks my heart to think that there's anybody who has to who leave their hometown because they can't afford to be here. And I've heard a little bit of concern about that as I've gone out and knocked a couple of doors here and there and froze my bald head a little bit. But, I've been listening for 4 years. I've held listening sessions throughout that time. The most recent one was about the library. And the reason I like those isn't because of anything necessarily that I get to say to folks there, but it's what I get out of it. And I get to hear right from people on a one-to-one basis, what they're concerned about. And my neighbors always tell me what they're concerned about, but it's nice to hear from people from a little bit farther out in the community. I'm running for mayor because I want to provide leadership as we go through this process of the Highway 26 bypass. It's a critical time in our city's history, and the decisions we make now are going to echo for decades here for the residents of Milton. I hope I've earned your trust over the last 4 years, and I hope I can earn your vote on April 2nd.
Incumbent Tom Chesmore, challengers Nancy Lauder and Brett Frazier, on behalf of the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much for participating in the candidate forum. We are running a little bit behind. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll start with the Milton City Council candidates at 8 o'clock. So thank you very much.